Hi everyone and welcome to this week's Monday Memo. Now when you speak to people about finance, professionals and accountants, they might give you back two different perceptions. On the one hand, they might describe us as complicated because we talk in strange terms, EPS, NPV, ROCE, CROCI, and so on, or that we've got these unnecessary controls and bureaucracy. In effect, we're like an overhead that slows down the business making decisions. And sometimes you do things that don't make sense to them when explaining the numbers or perhaps pointing out various risks that we're seeing. And then on the other hand, you've got others who might say we're actually very good at simplifying the complex, helping them make sense of it, understanding the numbers, developing useful checklists, pointing out things that they might have missed, blind spots, giving them peace of mind that the numbers are looking after themselves. And in fact, they want us to do more of keeping things simple for them. But either way, whatever the perception is, we're constantly being asked to do things more simply or continuing to simplify. And even as Da Vinci said, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. But are we in danger of taking this sentiment too far? At what point does continual simplification and continuous improvement of what we do become damaging? And it's interesting because this point came up on a recent conversation I had with a guest mentor we were recording with on the show, and that interview is due to go live shortly. We actually agreed amongst ourselves that whilst keeping it simple is quite good, at some point that embrace of simplicity veers into a very dangerous territory. That situation where complexity and friction is always viewed as the enemy, and people then become addicted to convenient, oversimplified thought processes. For those of us who have those smartphones with loads of various apps trying to simplify our life and make things easier, you know what I mean? You can end up having too many of these things. And when this shift occurs, let's call it oversimplification, there's a huge risk that everyone suffers. Imagine we're trying to explain a key point, a key message to decision makers, management or the owner of a business, and we've oversimplified the following sentence by taking out the spaces. So what you get is a jumbled up list of letters. So what you might want to do if you want to sort of take part in this exercise, grab yourself a pen or type it into a note or whatever. The following letters: REVUP 5 percentage sign, WITH NOPAT IN LINE AT 10M. So when you're looking at that jumbled up of letters in a sentence, and you've taken the spaces out, obviously, what is that message trying to convey? It's complete oversimplification. So let's add a bit of complexity back in. We go and add some spaces. So make it, do something else to it, transform it. And then what you get is a sentence is rev up 5% with NOPAT in line at 10M. So, okay, it's a bit more useful. So maybe let's translate into something closer to plain English. And it might read revenues up 5% on forecasts with NOPAT, which is net operating profit after tax, in line with forecasts at 10 million. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is peel back something that was perhaps oversimplified to make it a bit more useful. So oversimplification can move us away from actually being useful. It actually could even cause more problems than it solves. So if we don't pay attention to the details and we start taking more shortcuts, as in dropping spaces and reducing some words to 3-letter acronyms and so on, we're very much in danger of wasting time or taking our eye off the key message. Exactly the opposite of what organizations are paying us to do and provide to them. And ultimately will lead to the wrong decisions. So imagine your line manager said that I want to make all the employees in this business happy. And I'll let it up to you to figure out how to do that. Well, one way you could do that is immediately sign off a 10% bonus for all of them. But is that really the right thing to do? Probably not. So how can we avoid some of these pitfalls of oversimplification in an age that really much values oversimplification? Well, look, I've 4 thoughts that I've garnered from talking with the guest mentors on the Strength in the Numbers show. I think the first one comes back to knowing your why. Why are we being tasked to give that insight? What's the purpose of providing it? What is it that we're trying to achieve, or what behavior are we trying to drive or change? And does what we've done with our messaging and focus and attention help us do this. I think the next one, and this comes up quite often as well, is looking at things from an end-to-end perspective. Yes, this takes more time, but it's important to understand both the upstream and downstream effects of what we're trying to do. What information needs to come to us to ensure we don't oversimplify, and what do we need to do to prevent oversimplification downstream so something doesn't get lost in the message, like the old Chinese whispers effect. So i.e., what's the point of doing what we're doing to avoid the cost of oversimplification? Another key way, and again it's why we do strength in the numbers, is to compare and contrast with others, other peers, or even other substantive metrics. So benchmarks, peer analysis, ratios, trend analysis, to get a sense of whether or not we actually miss something. And this is something I think we're very good at doing. So it's a natural inbuilt part of our finance and accounting mentality to help us reduce oversimplification and avoid missing something. And then I think a key one that a lot of us probably intuitively know, but how often do we actually do this outside of, say, doing our regular audits, is closing the loop. So when we end up oversimplifying some things, we actually make mistakes. It happens. I remember once a sales leader I was working with misjudged the importance of actually having an undocumented verbal commitment is part of a deal, and it hurt his bottom line. So to prevent that in future, we close the loop by assessing our controls and incorporating enhancements where necessary, and getting that balance between reducing friction on the one part and complexity, but also making sure we've not oversimplified our controls. So look, hope you found this Monday memo very useful. If you did, please remember to share it with your friends and colleagues, who can subscribe on all the major platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube and Spotify. And also tune in to our next guest mentor interview to help understand how you can better gain influence within finance and accounting within your organizations and become involved in more meaningful decisions that really make an impact for you and your organizations. So until next time, take care of yourselves, and let's keep on building our strength in the numbers.